Hello class, and welcome once again to Language Arts class. I have my friend back with us today, Mr. Dictionary. He's going to help us just for a little bit in our lesson today that we'll get to in just a bit. But before we get to that, I want to go over some vocabulary words that is part of your reading. And since we are later in the week when you watch this video, let's see if you know them, all right? To admit to be true. Have you learned that one by now? To admit to be true, to confess, means, Skylar, did you say acknowledge? That's right. How about prideful or vain, Chloe? Prideful or vain? Yes, that means conceited, doesn't it? A janitor, Nia, a janitor. Yes, a custodian is a janitor. To come into view, Michael, to come into view. Emerge. Did you say emerge, Michael? Good. And Richard, smudged all over with dirt. Smudged all over with dirt. Grimy is right. Maybe you're in your garden, your hands got all grimy. Almost did not. Barely. Almost did not. Barely. Leah? Scarcely is exactly right, scarcely. To rush forward, Colin, to rush forward. Surge, did you say surge? Surge. To inspect carefully. To inspect carefully. Lily, to inspect carefully. Did you say survey? Good job. If you did a good job with that, if you have the right answers, it's going to help you when you come across them in your reading book. That's another piece of paper we don't need for this class. So we're going to be looking in our penmanship book. I told you a trick last time. What I'd like you to do, it might be easier for you to actually tear this page out. Now the perforation will cut off part of a letter, but if you make it come out, right there on the edge, not on the perforation, maybe have someone help you if you feel like you're going to rip it, then you'd be able to slide the paper around, and you could do that trick. If you do that, you don't want to lose your book or lose the paper that's in your book. So it would be easier to slide the paper around to trace. Look, to trace. Can you see through that? Can you see through the other side? You might not be able to, but if the light's right, you can see it. Like I can see it, but you might not be able to see it because of the way the lighting is on the video. But you'll be able to look at that a little better. In fact, when we look at that, I think I'm going to change views on the computer so you can see it a little bit better. And then we'll go over it, all right? But before we go over that, I want to make sure you understand that you're going to be reading in your reading book on page 208 all the way to page 220. And when you get to page 220, you're going to see some questions, and I'll ask you those the next time. So keep reading, reading, reading. Now we'll do a little bit of our penmanship just for 1 minute, all right? So this is what I was trying to tell you before with penmanship. See how you can see through the letters of your page? If this paper, if you look over here, if this paper is torn out and the perforation would cut off part of the letter there, then you could slide it. You could slide the paper so that you could still trace this over here. If you wanted letter E over here, you could still move it without having to make your paper kind of go in the crease there. But anyway, it would make it a little easier for you there, or you could just leave it in your book if you want. But tracing letters, really important. See there? Now I've traced a few already from the book, and if you look, D, A, and O. I picked those because they all start at the top going this way, see? And that same kind of motion that you do with A, and it's the same for the small one on A, and that same kind of motion where you curve around that way. And then, of course, it changes as it becomes a different letter. And a very similar O, capital O and little o. At D, same way. See, it's just like A, isn't it? Except it keeps going up and down for lowercase d, right? Then I transpose them down, not really transpose, but I changed them, I made them smaller, and we go like this, right? So what I'd like you to do is be able to do that. You got to make it smaller where it fits on the lines, but you can still trace to get that exact shape that you want. Do a row of D, do a row of A, do a row of O. Who's going to do that? Who's going to do that? It won't take long. And again, I know we're not having grades in many of our subjects now, but you know, practice, practice, practice. I'm seeing a lot more prints on your paper. Now that one's not quite as good as that one, but you know, they're not always perfect. We're not perfect, but okay. So, and do a whole row and then say, which one was the best one? Maybe in the row, you know, which one was the best one? And then do that and do A. Now, I'll tell you what makes it different, a little interesting. See A? All right, I'm going to write the word loaf, L-O. Notice I stop and come back around. Then I go in my A, I stop and come back around. Then I do my D, I stop and I come back around. Oh, I wrote the wrong word. I wrote the word load, didn't I? Anyway, I could do an F there too. L, O, A, stop, come back around, and then F. Notice, straight down, come back around, and go like that. So do a good job with that. We notice that word includes an O and an A. As you connect them, they're different. So practice those today. Do a few rows of that. And don't forget your letters. Don't forget to do them correctly. And do a super, super job with that. So let's review a little bit of language today. This is a very troublesome verb. Both of these, lie and lay, right? Oh, there's lay there. Lie and lay. They're two different verbs, but this is what's confusing, or can be anyway. So don't let it be. Rest or recline. And by the way, don't get discouraged. Don't get frustrated if you don't get it right away. This is not the easiest thing. Okay? Lie, lying, lay, have lain. Lie, lying, lay, have lain. These are the different forms of the word. Say it over and over and over in your mind to help you. Lie, lying, lay, have lain. If there's a have or has, you say lain. So if that's in the sentence, say lain. All right? Lay, lain, laid, have laid. This one's a little easier, except that that's the same word. To put or place something is lay. To rest or recline is laid. Did I say that right? To put or place something is lay. Lie is to rest or recline. Okay? Except for the past tense is lay. I know it's easy to say the wrong one on that. I know. Lie, notice, lie does not require an object. Okay? Lie does not require an object, but lay does. Lay requires an object. All right? Lay requires an object. For example, she does not like to lay her purse on the floor. She does not like to lay her purse on the floor. Notice that lay has an object. Lay has an object, purse. All right? The dogs always lay their toys near their bowls. Okay? They lay toys. It has an object for it. It has an object, doesn't it, with the word lay. The fat cat likes to lie in the sun. The fat cat likes to lie in the sun. Okay, notice the cat lies, meaning to recline, curls up on the ground, whatever's happening there. The cat likes to lie down and rest. Yesterday, he lay down to sleep at 10 o'clock. Oh, yesterday, he lay down to sleep at 10 o'clock. Notice the word lay. It's the past tense. Oops, sorry. You need to cut it off there. You see that okay? It's the past tense of lie. Lay. Yesterday. It's in the past now. It already happened. It's lay, isn't it? Not lay something down, but you lie down, but if it's in the past, you say lay. This is the one that can cause difficulty. But don't let it, just think of it in the past, lay. I know that's not easy, but I know you can do it, and over time it will get easier. Notice this one here. Don't leave, let's see, for me to see it and you see it at the same time. Don't leave dirty clothes lying around the house. Don't leave dirty clothes lying around the house. Notice, that's resting or reclining on the floor or wherever it is, right? The boy had lain in bed for hours. Notice the word lain is the past participle. Had lain. If there's a had or has, you say lain for resting or recline. He had lain. So the best thing to do on these is to have this memorized over and over. Lie, lying, lay, have lain. Lie, lying, lay, have lain. Lie, lying, lay, have lain. And lay, lain, laid, have laid. Lay, lain, laid, have laid, as far as putting or placing something. Resting or reclining, lie, lying, lay, have lain. And then you'll be able to do this. He laid the book on the counter. He laid it. That one, I think, will be easier for you. This one may cause a problem too. The boy had lain. Had lain. It might sound funny to you, but that's whenever there's had or has, you say lain for resting or reclining. So work on those. Keep practicing those. And here's what I suggest you do. In your book, take a piece of paper and remember this page that you did on page 241. I know you know what the answers are now, and you've gone over them, and maybe your parents have helped you some with it. Take a piece of notebook paper and copy down, pick 5 sentences, or do all of them if you want to, and re-copy them on a piece of paper with the correct, write the whole sentence. You do not have a page to do today. That's another page, and this is what I want you to do. There's 2 things I want you to do on this video, along with this video, is copy page 241, think, see, there's 22 of them. Do at least 5 of them where you just rewrite the whole sentence and underline the word that you had in your book and write. Why do this? To just get it in your mind by doing it again and again and seeing the correct way, and then you'll know. You'll be learning it by just seeing what's correct over and over. It'll get in your mind better. Do 10 of them if you want to, but at least write 5 sentences there. Can you do that? I think you can. Let's go over a few of these now. Do you remember how to do, I'm going to scoot on this side. I don't know why I like it better on this side, but it's easier for me to, I think, because I'm right-handed. Less and fewer. What does less mean? Cannot be counted, right? Well, not very easily. Fewer counted. Fewer pieces of candy. Fewer crackers in the package than before. Fewer rocks or whatever. versus less, things that cannot be, less data, or something like that. You're not really counting objects. How about this? Have and of. I should have done it earlier. I should have obeyed sooner. I should have, or I should have. I should have. I should have done that. Should have, not should have. Burst, the balloon burst, right? The vase burst or broke, but not bust. The bust of Beethoven was in the museum, wherever it was, or the music studio. Between and among, they had a conversation between themselves. Maybe the sentence should read something like, Lucy and Sarah had a conversation between themselves. There's two people, The three boys split the cake among themselves, because there's three or more, and you know that. Besides, or beside, right? I was standing beside Roger, right? There were a few girls present besides the boys, right? In addition to or other than just them, besides. Affect, effect. What is affect? Affect is a, did you say verb? And effect or effect is a noun. And that's the simplest way of thinking of it. Again, a result or consequence, okay? And this is how it affects you, It does something to you. Maybe you want to look at this. It influences you, right? To affect me greatly. Oh, the story affected me greatly, deeply, right? It moved me, or whatever the effect was. The effect was, now I use the word effect, don't I? Right? Had a nice effect, right? The sound in that musical piece had a sobering effect. Effect, now that's a noun. I accept your apology. I accept it. I take it. I receive it. Okay. All of you are allowed to go except for Johnny. He needs to stay here and get this done first, right? Except him, other than him. Let's wait on people. The waiter waited on you. I waited on him hand and foot because he was ill. But I'm going to have to wait for Sarah. We're waiting for Sarah to get done. Or we're waiting for Sarah to come. We're not waiting on. Let's try to do it again. We'll try to do it again. We'll try to do better. We'll try to climb the hill. We'll not try and. So just forget try and. Don't say that. Try to is what we say. And just learn that, and then you'll get it right. Off of, don't say off of, just say off. Get off the bed. Right? Get off my foot. You don't have to say get off of. Just say get off. Less and fewer, I believe, is the one that we started with. So do a good job with that. Now, what I want to show you now is something that is not in your books. You definitely need to watch this video. And if you're here, you're watching it. But there's something I want to show you that is not in your book. And what it is I have a book over here. I'm going to grab right here. And it's called Elements of English. And the reason I'm bringing this up is we're going to pause today. We don't have an additional page. And I want you to practice the lie-lay as well as something in this book. And you'll just need a piece of notebook paper. You will not need the book for this. It is not in your book. I'm mentioning this book to you. I'm going to show you something that's in this book I'm really excited about. And it has come up this year. Girls especially, but also some boys, but particularly a few girls who are wanting to experiment have noticed when you do creative writing, our writing, when we write a story, when you write a book report, when you turn something in, you're going to need to know this in other grades. But I found a lot of books are leaving this out of the book. And this is an old book. Believe it or not, it's called Elements of English. And it is printed by Norwood Press in 1936. Yes, this was printed in 1930. This is how old this book is. And the reason, there's something in here I really like. It has to do with hyphens. When you write, we have something called syllables, right? That words are made up of. And when you write on your piece of notebook paper, when you come to the end of a line, I'm going to show you that clearer in a minute, you need to go to the next line. But in order to go to the next line, you either need to stop, put the whole word on the next line, or you divide the word with a hyphen. But you don't just put it anywhere. And I think some of us are just guessing on where you think it might, that looks good. But there are rules in how to do that. Now, if you were to look in a dictionary, where's Mr. Dictionary? I know all the words, no. And he's going to help us with something. And that is, in our dictionary, all right, the words are divided into syllables. And so when you look in a dictionary, you'll see them divided into syllables. Those divisions help us to divide words in situations like that. But there are rules for when to divide a word and how to divide a word. And I want to show you because this lesson today is actually a day you would have done a book report, but we're cutting out a lot of things to make it simpler and easier for you. We would have been doing a whole lot more book reports, a whole lot more written reports with our language when writing. So I'm going to have a day where we're looking and thinking about some things with writing, journal writing and things like that. And this is something I'd really like you to learn. So watch this video again and you'll know it. So I'm going to change views for you so that you can see right inside this dictionary a little bit easier, as well as inside of this book. And it will help you to see it a little bit better. So here, you take a look in this book. So this is the kind of thing I'm talking about. In the dictionary, you will see syllables divided, like extinguisher, right? Extirpate, which by the way means to destroy totally. Extirpate. There's rules on how to divide words up into syllables. And when you write on a piece of notebook paper, or even in print, there are rules of when you would divide the syllables. See how they've done there? There's rules of how to divide it to go to the next line. And that's what I want to show you. And I'll be flipping around between the dictionary and this other book that I showed you about, written in 1936. But it's still true today. Some of the rules here, it's very interesting actually. Look, rules and regulations for using the hyphen. You use a hyphen to indicate the continuation when lack of space makes it necessary to run a word over from the end of one line to the beginning of another. The following suggestions will help you. Look, always make the division between syllables. So you have to know the syllables based on some rules on how to divide syllables. You don't divide in the middle of a syllable. You always divide within that syllable. Understand, like elevate, all of that. You would divide where a syllable would naturally be. So you wouldn't put VA and then hyphen TE. No, because all of that's one syllable. It should all be together. It stays together. Look at the next page. Here's rule 2. Never let a syllable of one letter stand alone on a line. Try to avoid letting a syllable of 2 letters stand alone. Such words as about, city should never be divided. You wouldn't say about. There's only one letter there in the syllable. So you just need to write the whole word on the next line. You see that? Just go to the next line if that happens. Don't just put an Don't just put one letter. Same with city. There's only two letters. Really, you ought to try. Now, there's some rare instances where you could, but usually 3 letters before you divide it. You should have at least 3 letters. All right? A word of 1 syllable should never be divided. Now, even though that's a longer word, like the word through, see that? You wouldn't divide that. You wouldn't put THR, hyphen. Okay? You just go to the next line, or you put it all on that line, but don't try to squeeze it. Just go to the next line. Nay, even though there's more letters, it's 1 syllable, so it stays together. You don't divide it if it's 1 syllable. Remember syllables? Nay, through, but look at this word, possible, possible. That's 3 syllables, isn't it? So if it's 1 syllable, do not divide it. Rule 4, whenever possible, begin a new syllable with a consonant rather than with a vowel. What does that mean? Expectant. All right, notice patent. Consonant, consonant. Now the word starts with a vowel, right? So obviously the first syllable, if the word starts with a vowel, of course the first one would have a vowel. But every syllable after that, if it's a longer word, starts with a consonant if possible, right? We wouldn't say expect, no, we'd say expectant, starting with the consonant. So that's another rule to remember when dividing a syllable. So let's say you were going to put this on a line, expectant, you'd write it like this, right? You're coming to the end of your line, and there's the red line, on the other side of your paper. So you want to make sure you time it right. And then you can go expectant. See, you could divide it that way because it's more than 1 or 2 letters, and it ends, and then the next syllable starts with that consonant, expectant, and that's a syllable, right? You haven't broken up the syllable at all. So that's one way you could do it too. Number 4, and relate, okay? Relate, okay? And I know that has 2 letters, and so if possible, that should stay together, but on a line. That has 3, so you could divide there. Depending on the situation, you may want to just put that on the next line, but if you were to divide it, that is where you could divide it, okay? You still divide into syllables for instances, and even for speaking, all right? But you could, but you try not to, definitely not 1. Like there, you would not, because it's a shorter word. This one has at least 4 letters after it. When 2 or more letters make 1 sound, they must not be divided. Destroy, okay? See this? Like OY, okay? You would not divide there because it's all making 1 sound. Even though STR is a sound and OY is a separate sound, it stays together because it's all in 1 syllable, isn't it? Destroy. And they're separate sounds, right? But they're making one sound. So don't separate OY because it's making one sound. Don't separate STR ever because they're making one sound, all right? So like you wouldn't say D, you wouldn't say destroy. You wouldn't do that, would you? No. Not only is it not on the line, but destroy. That has to all stay together because STR is a special sound. Stir and string. OY is a special sound, but it's all one syllable, so it stays together. So don't put the S over here in something, right? Because it's all one sound, right? 6, if a suffix is not pronounced separately, it is a separate syllable. What do we mean by that? If a suffix is not pronounced separately, it is not a separate syllable. In other words, pressed, pressed, dropped, dropped. That's all one syllable, isn't it? If it is not pronounced separately, it is not a separate syllable. It's not pressed, dropped. No, it's one syllable because we pronounce it all together as one. So that's different than, let me write the word pressed. Whoops. Pressed. It's all pronounced together. And even though that's a suffix, isn't it? Added to the word press, which is the root word. But if we did pressing, so let me write the word pressing. Now, how many syllables is this? Did you say 2? Yes, pressing. It's not pronounced together, is it? This is a suffix, but you could divide there because it's a separate sound. But pressed, it's all together in one syllable. So don't divide the ED in that word. You wouldn't say pressed and put a hyphen there, would you? No, because it's all one syllable. You see that? Is that making sense? It's a lot to remember, isn't it? When a consonant is doubled, the division is generally between the two consonants. Compelling, forgetting. If there's a double consonant, you can divide between the double consonant. Okay, forgetting. Remember your phonics papers from a couple years ago? You did things like this, so it would help you out now. Compel, and you could go to the next line for this. You could put it on the next line. You could put ting on the next line. You wouldn't want, I mean, you could do this for, and you could put getting on the next line too. You could divide it there. Or you could divide it here and put that on the next line. Or you could divide here and put pelling on the next line. Or between the double consonants. But don't put the 2 L's and then ing. If there's a double consonant, divide it between the 2 L's. Whereas in this word, pressing, the root word had 2 S's, so that was a little different on that one. I don't want to confuse you on that. Because there are double consonants there too. Sorry about, that wasn't a good example. I hope I didn't confuse you. So there's a double consonant, you do divide it there. Because forget only had 1 T to start with, but you doubled it. So then you can divide it where the T is. Whereas in the word press, you didn't have just 1 S, you had 2 in the beginning and just added an ED. Okay. So that you would not divide anyway because it's 1 syllable. You wouldn't divide that word at all. You just write pressed. So that's the difference between the pressing word and the forgetting word. I hope I didn't, let me say that again so I don't confuse you, okay? If there are double consonants, you divide between the double consonant, okay? If there isn't a double consonant, you know, like let's say the word destroy, destroying, then you could divide where the ing is because there isn't double consonants there, okay? And in the case of pressed, or it's just one syllable, so it all stays together. You don't divide the double consonant there because it's just one syllable, okay? Just one syllable. I would let you divide here on this one because the root word has two S's. You didn't double the consonant to add the ing in this case. It already had two S's. So I hope that makes it clear for you. And again, this is just for your information to help you with your writing when you write papers and you write your thoughts. I hope this has helped you a little bit to understand it a little bit better. Again, this is not something that is necessarily in your book, but it is something that I think is important for you to know. So hopefully it did help you. Practice lie and lay, knowing the difference. Practice your letters. Practice, you could play around with this on a piece of paper. I think that would be good. Play this again, and maybe the next time you write a paper, this will help you to know how to divide. Look in the dictionary if you're not sure. It'll help you know where to divide it. And then when you write papers, you won't just guess. When in doubt, don't. Just go to the next line on your paper and divide it that way. Just go to the next line. Don't try to squeeze it in. Just go to the next line. Or follow the rules. Play this video over and over as many times as you would like in order to understand something a little bit better. And again, if you have any questions, let me know, and I want to help you. Again, I'm not there to walk around the room and to help you. And so hopefully you'll do a good job. But until next time, be looking for the next video. Yes, please do.